realistic notion of where we stand on a highway bill, I regret to say. So I'd like to get into a couple of nationally significant safety issues. After 20 years, we finally got regulation of transit, particularly underground transit, but only after 9 people were killed in a metro accident here in 2009, and now we've just had another accident which took a life and sent 80 people to the hospital. Am I to believe that the FTA safety office, which will oversight, we gave this task to the states with FTA safety office oversight, is that office fully staffed?
We have been staffing up steadily since MAP 21 gave us that responsibility.
When will that office be staffed? It needs to push the states.
Yes. Well, admittedly, ramping up a very new function in safety takes a little time. In fact, we are working through a rulemaking that will give us all of the authorities and provide the agencies with all of the notice of our activities that will happen going forward. I can get you more detail on the ramp-up plan, but I know that last year we brought in more than 20 people to help us with these activities. But you're absolutely right. These transit systems are critically important, and when accidents happen, answers need to be developed very quickly, and responses need to be deployed very quickly.
Mr. Secretary, do you have any idea how many of the state offices are staffed and up and running?
I don't have information.
Could you get that information to the committee?
Of course.
I think we need to push the states when we see these accidents continue to happen. Let me ask you about another safety issue. Most of our trucks are really small businesses, and there's been no standard driver training. To their credit, they desire to have a standard curriculum. This issue is more than 20 years old. I believe I read yesterday that you were beginning a negotiated rulemaking and would expect a final rule, I suppose, at someday on behind-the-wheel training for drivers, which are most of the drivers in the trucks out here on the roads. Have you an expected timeline for this driver training curriculum?
We hope to complete our work on this within the calendar year, Congresswoman. This has also been a long and tortured issue with a lot of false starts in the past, but we think a negotiated rulemaking is the fastest way to get us there with the parties at the table.
That's very good news that this could happen within the year. Finally, Mr. Secretary, various states frustrated that we did not even authorize any experiments for alternatives to the gas tax. Some of them have begun to do their own alternatives. I wonder if you would agree that at the very least in the next bill, the federal government ought to authorize studies of what the states are doing so we have at least some information on alternatives to the user tax that we now know is no longer useful to us.
I think that would be a very productive opportunity. There's a reason why America is getting more stuck in traffic, and some of it has to do with the fact that the way we've done things in the past, both policy and perhaps even funding-wise, need to be looked at with fresh eyes. And so I think the more information, the more study there is out there, it can only help the system at the end of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's one thing for us not to authorize the studies. I congratulate the states who are doing their own experiments, and at the very least, I will myself endeavor to see that the next transportation bill at least gets us some input from the studies, from the work that is being done in the states. And I thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With that, recognize Mr. Hanna.